So the biggest economic trend of our times is not even talked about. Why is that? Well, because they don't want you to know. Even the government doesn't want it to know that the only way of paying their debt is by printing extra money to pay for that debt. Why do they not want you to know? Because it's a tax on everybody of 8% a year. And so they're just basically stealing for you to pay the debt, but nobody realizes it. So we're all up in the arms when inflation goes up to 3%. That's not the story. The story is what they're doing to your money and why you have to work 3 jobs now when 20 years ago, 1 job, you could buy a house with 3 times your income. But nobody asked that question. People are just angry. They don't realize what's going on. But it's this big thing. So they hide what's going on. The answer comes out, it's Bitcoin.
How about if you had $1 million and you could only invest into one asset?
Yeah, then if I can only invest in one asset and I couldn't do anything about it for 10 years, right? I couldn't switch if it was underperforming, I'd take Bitcoin.
Raoul warns that governments are quietly devaluing money through endless printing, creating an invisible tax that reduces everyone's purchasing power. He believes Bitcoin offers a solution, a system beyond government control that protects personal wealth. Powell says crypto and technology are shifting power from big institutions to individuals. This change allows people to regain control over their finances and participate directly in a new digital economy. As AI and automation transform industries, Powell stresses that adapting and investing smartly will define who thrives in this new era.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
Media, even if they feel like they're independent, they're still not getting the information. So it's a staggering thing. I talk about debasement of currency. Everybody who owns crypto knows about this. It's provable. Not one university teaches it, and no newspapers talk about it. Last time I checked, it was mentioned once on CNBC by somebody, and not once appeared in print. So the biggest economic trend of our times is not even talked about. Why is that? Well, because they don't want you to know. Even the government doesn't want it to know that the only way of paying their debt is by printing extra money to pay for that debt. Why do they not want you to know? Because it's a tax on everybody of 8% a year. And so they're just basically stealing for you to pay the debt, but nobody realizes it. So we're all up in the arms when inflation goes up to 3%. That's not the fucking story. The story is what they're doing to your money and why you have to work 3 jobs now when 20 years ago, 1 job, you could buy a house with 3 times your income. But nobody asked that question. People are just angry. They don't realize what's going on. But it's this big thing. So they hide what's going on. The answer comes out, it's Bitcoin. So they've spent their entire lives fighting against it. The Financial Times still abuses Bitcoin to this day, even though it's the best performing asset of all time. And now the US government is talking about it. No, they still think it's a scam. Same with The Economist, and same with most of the media. It's absurd. But what they're actually saying to you is, no, you need to go to the gatekeepers, and how dare you think about unfucking your future without going to the system and paying the gatekeeper. I mean, that's terrible. And then, if you think about it, the venture capital system, the private equity system, they're all the same. They have gatekeepers, they charge high fees. Here we've got a system with low fees, access to anybody. Of course they don't want it.
In the stock market, how much of it is firm versus firm competition? Or is it more everyone's trying to dump on the retail investors?
It is the most relentlessly capitalistic system on earth when it comes to a financial market itself. Yeah, there are players who can manipulate for short periods of time, but it's too big for anybody to rule the market. So it is a battleground of intellect, technology that plays out all day, every day. Normally, the IPO market, when a company goes public, generally, if the company's a decent company and it has good perspective, well, maybe it works over time, maybe it doesn't. All investments work the same way, they're not all guaranteed to go up. So everyone's getting access, but don't forget, the venture capital has made the access from it being worth, call it $20 million. By the time it goes public, being worth $1 billion. They've made all of that money, and then you've got to bet that it goes from $1 billion to $100 billion, like Facebook. It's doable. Doesn't always happen. So I don't think it's dumping on retail. I think what it's saying to retail is, well, we're the masters of this universe, and if you want access, you're going to have to pay us. Or you're not smart enough to manage your own money. We're going to manage it for you, and we're going to charge you a lot of money because we're smart and you're stupid. And what we've learned is the rise of retail investor is now massive. It was a movement that started with Occupy Wall Street, when all the millennials were in their early 20s or still at university or still at school. Then it lay dormant for a while, because the system kind of just carried on and they were too busy just starting their careers and lives and stuff. Then the pandemic came and they were given a check and they were stuck at home and they couldn't do their jobs. And for some reason, this whole group of people who had no interest in finance absolutely hated it, treated it like a computer game and went all in. And they did generally pretty well. Yeah, GameStop went boom bust, but a lot of people got into crypto. A lot of people understood technology investing. That's the rise of Robinhood as a company, which is one of the great success stories of our period. What is Robinhood doing? It democratizes access to all of this stuff. The rise of Coinbase, the rise of crypto markets. So people en masse have figured out how to make money without the system. And the answer was just go to a parallel system, do it ourselves. That's genius.
If all of your investments were taken from you and turned into cash, let's say $225 million liquid, and you could only buy one asset, where are you putting your money?
Building a house on a nice beach, which I already have. It didn't cost me $225 million. Again, it's that quality of life answer. You can build the most expensive beach house on the most expensive beach in the world, but you don't need all the money in the world to be rich. To be rich is the experience of life itself.
I assumed you'd say Bitcoin.
Why do you need more money than $225 million?
That's fair.
What's the point?
Yeah.
To get a bigger house? 5 bigger houses? Make your life more complicated? At $225 million, you're flying private jets to do what you want. You can just spend your life giving it away. Buy a nice place on the beach and maybe somewhere in the countryside and maybe a place in the city and give it all. Do something.
How about if you had $1 million and you could only invest into one asset?
Yeah, then if I can only invest in one asset and I couldn't do anything about it for 10 years, so I couldn't switch if it was underperforming, I'd take Bitcoin.
And then I'll just add this. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I mean, I've given a lot of advice, but for people who are starting their career or earlier in their journey, there was a piece of advice when I just graduated from university and I was looking for a job and I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. My father was in marketing, but I was at university in the 80s and I saw Wall Street and the film Wall Street and all of that stuff. And I thought, I want that. And a friend of my father's, it was my dad's 50th birthday, said to me, what do you want to do? What job do you want to do? And it was a recession, so I was sort of looking to try and get a bloody job. But I said, listen, I'm thinking between marketing and finance. He's like, it's a really simple decision. He goes, both jobs are basically in sales. In one job, let's say you work for a great marketing company like Mars. They make candies and they sell them to millions. You'll get free Mars bar. Or you go and work for a bank and you'll get free money. And you've got to think about that because really what we're trading off is our time and our knowledge. Think really hard who you give it to and what the value is, because you can do the same job elsewhere and make more money from it. When I was at Goldman Sachs, we were hiring more nuclear scientists than the whole of the nuclear industry. And they were going into the derivatives industry because they really needed really smart people, because it was an arbitrage, because you can go to stay in university, lecture on this stuff, work on PhD papers, whatever, or you can work for a few nuclear companies and get paid X, or go to a Goldman Sachs and get paid 10 times X. It was the same thing, the same use of knowledge. Now, you may trade it off and say, money's not the trade-off, I want to do good. Okay, that's another trade-off. You might trade off medical knowledge to be a doctor as opposed to medical knowledge to go and work for a pharmaceutical company and do whatever it is. But think of that trade-off and realize there's probably a better way for you to accumulate some money to unfuck your future.
Raoul Pal warns that governments are quietly devaluing money through constant printing, creating an invisible tax that erodes purchasing power. He believes Bitcoin is the solution, a financial system beyond government control that safeguards individual wealth and offers true financial freedom. According to Pal, crypto and technology are shifting power from institutions to individuals, marking a massive economic transformation driven by AI and automation. He emphasizes that adapting early and investing wisely will be crucial to thriving in this new digital era.
My whole career of 30 years have invested in big picture trends in economies and markets, looking into the future and saying, where's the world going to go? And creating the linkages and betting on that. And here we've got to the first place ever for me, where I get to some date like 2030, could be 2032, I don't know. I have no fucking idea. And so if I've no idea, and I'm considered an expert in doing this, and you listen to the AI people, they don't really know. Nobody really knows. The governments have no idea what's happening. I'm thinking, okay, well, if I'm right, we've got about 5 years to sort our shit out. And so that means if I'm trying to think, how do I get through this massive change? This is going to be the biggest change to human civilization in its history, because we were always the top of the tree, and now we're not. We're the next rung down. And then eventually there'll be artificial superintelligence, which will mean that the regular AI will be the next rung down, will be the third rung down. So if that's the case, the easiest way to get through it is to try and make as much money as possible now, so you're buffered from it. If you can observe it from a beach in the Cayman Islands drinking a pina colada, it's better than than being disrupted in everything that you do. How do you make a choice if you're coming out of university? What job do you do? I don't know. Of course, there'll be opportunities, and we'll talk about that later for humans, but we don't know what they are yet. And so you've got enormous amounts of risk, and the best way of hedging the risk is have a buffer, and investing is the only way. So that's what I fear. If you don't do anything, you've got maximum uncertainty. I mean, about the largest uncertainty humanity's ever had, and you don't have a cash buffer to deal with it, and the cash that you're earning is being devalued in the meantime. So could the currency of humanity be compute? I mean, really the fundamental currency of humanity is energy, really, because it's energy that does everything that we do. That's what creates all the output. And upstream of even energy is attention. Humans, that's what we actually all do, is like, it's some form of attention, whether it's the purest attention of love, or the attention of being online, or the attention of even having a certain degree from university gives you attention, all of that stuff. So could compute be that? Yes, but who owns the compute to start with? What, OpenAI? So are we supposed to be grateful that they give us compute? Or are we better off to say, you know what, we should be paid for our attention? Because humans are humans. That's the one thing AI can't do, is be a human. So let us do human things, and we get paid for the attention. This is this whole idea of Web3 and where crypto's going, which is the idea that right now, let's say this is on YouTube. You get some share of the ad revenue. It's not a lot. And Google make a fortune, and the advertisers get access to the viewer. But maybe in the world, we can share in that. So if we're giving our attention, we get paid for some of that attention too. Okay, that becomes an interesting model. It worries me that if it's just about compute, then we have to go begging to somebody to say, please, sir, can I have some more compute? That's not a way. I don't think. But I understand that compute is going to be central to everything. This compute, energy, intelligence flywheel. And if intelligence is free, what do we need the compute for? So I've got a thesis about this, is that as humans, we can't be disrupted as humans. As labor, as workers, yes. But as humans, we can't. So here's how I think about this. The machines started beating humans at chess 30 years ago. Yet chess is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Why? Because humans love to see humans compete with each other. And okay, that's kind of an interesting signal. In the future, a lot of podcasts will be AI characters creating podcasts. In real life meetups, that's human. You won't change that either. Sports events, you won't change that. You won't change music events. Yes, ABBA are on tour in the UK. We're not on tour. There is a venue in the UK as holograms, but then the experience is actually a bunch of humans watching an ABBA event. So I think the ability to be human is the answer to everything. What that means, we don't know yet. But human attention, is what humans actually crave of all. So that is an economic system in its own right. There are lots of answers to where this weird world is going. And I don't believe it's going to be universal basic income. We're all at home with our headsets on playing video games all day. There'll be plenty of other interesting, exciting opportunities. It'll just be different. Much like it was different, if you go back 100 years and say to people, well, nowadays, we've all got computers in our pockets. We do this, we call people, we watch stuff on screens. They would think it's completely weird. But, we'll just change.
So a somewhat optimistic view.
Optimistic
if you have some money.
with a gut-wrenching change in the middle. It's going to be confusing. The political system's going to be angry about it. Right. They're taking our jobs. Why am I not making any money? I can't get through it. This is going to really ramp up. But yes, if you've got some money, if you take steps to make some money, you will have a much higher probability of getting through this smoothly.
So to put it in your words, how do you unfuck your life for the next 5 years?
So I think almost everybody knowing this understands why I use that kind of mimetic language of how to unfuck your future, because everyone feels like their future's been fucked. When they looked at their parents, they were buying houses in their 20s. If I go back to when I bought my first house or apartment, I was working in investment banking in London. I was like 25. I wasn't earning a massive salary, but I was in a high-paid industry. Okay, fine. But I bought an apartment. It was 3.5 times my income. The same apartment in London for the same investment banking employees, 25 years old, 10 times, 12 times. So even the deposit now is more than I paid for the house. I mean, that's how fucked we are, and it's only getting worse. You see, as we keep debasing the currency by 8% a year, these assets naturally just go up 8% because, again, it's the optics of the denominator, the value of money falling, so it buys less. So that goes up, and then we got normal inflation. Just, go to the bloody supermarket or a restaurant in the United States. It's insanity how expensive it is now. But wages, Well, they go up about 3% a year. Maybe if you're really lucky, 5% a year. But still, you kind of feel like you're on the hamster wheel and you just don't get anywhere. And that's what we've got to solve for people. Because if you don't break out of this, you're trapped. And it's a huge trap. And it's not going to change.
Raoul says the recent crypto dip is a healthy reset before a major rally. He highlights Bitcoin's strong link to global liquidity and predicts huge capital inflows from institutions, pushing crypto toward a $10 trillion market. With weakening fiat currencies, he sees this as the setup for massive adoption and record gains. He calls this next phase the banana zone, a period of explosive growth and innovation. Powell believes patient investors will benefit most as Bitcoin leads the next major bull run. Will institutional adoption drive the next crypto boom? Are you ready for the banana zone rally? Share your thoughts in the comments.